Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where we just got back from a flyby of Minmus, and I'm looking through the contracts here. I do see this one for surface-deployed mystery goo observations, and that seems like a thing that we should definitely do. Looking at our contracts, it's pretty much all lining up for a moon landing. The main thing that isn't lining up for a moon landing here is this docking on or around the moon. However, I have an idea for that. Actually, I have two ideas for that. We'll see which one we pursue here in a moment. But for now, it looks like this is looking pretty good. Actually, we could rescue Tralee from orbit of the moon. This would do it if we did this correctly. Okay, we'll take a look at that orbit here in a moment. That is looking good. We're not going to do a rescue from orbit of Kerbal. That's not a thing that we're going to do right now. So let's go ahead and leave this facility, and I'd like to try to combine these flights together. So let's hop into the R&D, make sure that we have the surface deployed mystery goo. That's the Communitron. And the passive seismometer. We can definitely grab that. That's not the worst thing. And we're going to be missing a little bit for our surface deployed science. Specifically, the ionographer is, I think, the only thing that we're really going to be missing. I mean, we won't have the RTGs, but we don't really need that. So that'll be fine, I think. Let's go ahead and grab the Communitron and the passive seismometer. Note that the moon is not tectonically active, nor is Minmus, so we won't get anything out of this unless we crash things into the moon. But we'll go ahead and research that. That'll be fine. Okay, so we're going to have to do some work in our VAB, but before we do, let's hop into the tracking station and take a look at this orbit. So, around the moon, so that's Tralee's heap, we can actually get rid of all of these derelicts. None of these are relevant anymore. Okay, so we get rid of those. We've got Tralee's heap out over here. This is not bad. Quite good, actually. So I like it. That is a very, very decent orbit for us to land from. So we're thinking about combining this together, right? And actually, let's toggle the debris on, and let's clean up all of our debris as long as we're in here. So the Kerbal Rescuer Mark 1 debris, which is on a suborbital trajectory, so we can't terminate that. But all of this other debris we can definitely get rid of. We do not need it. This is suborbital. This we can actually recover. Hilarious. We didn't get anything from it, but that's fine. This is landed at the moon. We'll terminate that. This is suborbital. And this is suborbital. Okay, so both of these will apparently, or rather all four of these will apparently go away on their own, so that's fine. We need to think about what we need to do for this combined mission. Okay, so I'll talk about, for a brief moment here, what the plan was going to be before we found the rescue Kerbal. The plan before then was going to be that we meet up with the existing moonlander, or rather not the existing moonlander, the existing Kerbal that needed to be rescued. So let's load up the moon landing machine here, and we need to dock. So that pretty much means ditching this Mark 16 parachute. And there's no docking adapter on that Hulk, almost certainly. So, we have the docking port. We don't have access to the claw. I was planning on using the claw for that. Okay, let's leave here and see what we need for the claw, because I was definitely planning on just docking up with that claw. I was also thinking about having a secondary tiny little craft that we just detach and then claw up, or undock and then dock. We could theoretically do that. That'd be very cheesy, and I would prefer not to do that. But what do we actually need to grab the claw? Where is that? Not exactly sure where that is. Advanced construction. There's some decent, like, radial decouplers in this. Actuators? Yeah, it's in actuators. Okay, so we need, like, 270 total science to get that. That is slightly unfortunate. As in, we're not going to get it. Okay, so secondary options. we can have a secondary payload here. So we're going back to the original plan. Okay, so the P seats 2. One thing I want to find out, what type of Kerbal is the one that we're going to rescue? That is actually relevant to this planning stage. Oh, okay, Kerbal stopped responding there, so my mute button may have not actually worked there. Exciting. Okay, so let's hop into the tracking station here, and we can't actually fly this. I don't know what type of Kerbal Traily is. That makes things more complicated. Certainly. Save Traily Kerbin, recover Traily Kerbin on Kerbin. Can we see that from the Astronaut Complex, maybe? I don't think so, not at this point. That does make the planning status of this more complex. So we go into the Astronaut Complex and... oh, there we go. Traily is a scientist. Good to know. So Traily is visible here. Perfect. So with Traily being a scientist, that makes things simpler for us, because that is pretty much ideal. We still want a 3-seater here. So we could do the Pomegranate re-entry module, and that is exactly what we're going to do. We're going to upgrade to the Pomegranate. We're going to drop the small inline reaction wheel here for sure. We ditch the P, and we have to put in a new Pomegranate, unfortunately, because this will be the root part. I have no idea where that went. Okay, that's exciting. I'm going to move this aside. There it is. Cool. So I just couldn't see it there. But we can then attach in here. We definitely want a heavier SAS. So we'll put an advanced inline stabilizer there. Cool. We now don't need one up here. So we can put this guy in, and we can definitely put in our Mark 16 parachute here. And we can ditch this Pomegranate here. So this is now a 3-seater. We're not going to be bringing Bob along, because we're going to have a scientist that we get in orbit. Perfect. Otherwise, we're going to need a little bit more in this, and we know we have plenty of Delta V to make that happen. So we're going to put in a service module of some sort. Hang on. It's actually under cargo. There we go. That's what we're looking for. So we're going to go for an SEQ 9, something kind of like this. And inside of that, we're going to put our surface deployed science. So we know we need the following: a communitron. We know we need a GUAB ED monitor. We know that we need an experiment control station. Power usage for all of that is going to be 3. So a single photovoltaic panel being deployed by Bob, who, as you recall, is a level 1 engineer, will produce 2. So we need at least 2 photovoltaic panels here to power what we have here. Okay. So we could also put a passive seismometer down. That's not going to make us much science unless we crash things in. And we could also put in a weather analyzer. That's also not going to make us much science unless we crash things in. Or rather, that's not going to do anything at all. What am I talking about? That's not going to do anything at all for the moon. So we don't need to bring this. That'll save us a little bit of money and weight. But we can bring photovoltaic panels. And we can just max this out with photovoltaic panels. We are going to need to bring an ionographer later. But this would do for now. Now, we have no real way to dock here. So that's the main problem. And I want to think about how we might want to handle that. I'm currently leaning towards a secondary payload. And where would we put that? The obvious answer would be here up top. So if we rework our parachutes, can we get the experiment storage unit into our service bay? Now that's an interesting question. I mean, in theory, it might cause some explosions. It's definitely clipping in up here. The other problem with that being here is we're going to be landing, like, right on this, right? What is the impact tolerance of a Science Junior? That is a question that we should figure out here. 6 meters per second compared to the experiment storage unit, which is 15 meters per second. Okay, I'm actually not concerned about that then. Cool. So we'll keep that there. Hopefully we don't explode on the pad. And now we're going to need to work on our parachute solution. So I'm going to put in 4 drogue chutes like this. I'm going to ditch the Mark 16 parachute. We're not going to use that, I think, at all for this particular design. And then we're going to put in 4 radial mount parachutes like this. It's a bit wacky looking, but it should, in theory, do the trick. I don't think we need to add any additional fuel to this. I think this is more than enough fuel. Then we're going to have a system up here where we have like a TD06 decoupler. Like this. Then we're going to put in another TD06 decoupler. And all we're going to have here is, like I said, a secondary payload. So we're going to go with like the cheapest probodobodyne we can. A probodobodyne octo. Like that. We're going to give it some solar panels so that it can generate power. Very cheap solar panels, ideally. Let's see here. The cheapest solar panel is these. We're going to put 2 of those on. I'm thinking actually 4. They're very cheap. So something like this, and then this needs some small amount of thruster capacity. So we would put on the smallest RCS fuel tank we have. These are all going to be giant, aren't they? That's still much larger than I want, realistically, but it should be okay. And then we will put on some monoprop control here. So RCS thruster blocks, something like this. Those are huge. Can we get a smaller one? Yes. There we go. That's very cheap. Cool. Then we're going to put on another decoupler here. This is going to be a TD06. And then we're going to put a nose cone up on top of this. So an aerodynamic nose cone up here. That's just going to be like a very, very small one. A miniature rocket nose. There we go. Something kind of like this. So the idea here is going to be that we undock these and then redock them in orbit of the moon. 2 different vessels together. I'm not sure if that'll count or not. We could, in theory, test it and see if this would count for the contract. It's definitely cheesy. I'm not going to lie about that. That's very cheesy. So let's go ahead and test it real quick. We're going to save, we're going to launch this, and we will revert this. I just want to make sure that this will count for the contract. I don't know if it will or not. We're essentially just verifying with the people who are contracting us that this would be acceptable. That's what we're doing right now. So we're just going to put this into orbit of the moon, undock it, and then redock it. That's all we're going to do here. So we'll put this in orbit around the moon. So set orbit moon. We don't really care where, so this is fine. And this will be reverted. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we are going to undock. Wait, these are decouplers. These aren't docking at all. What am I doing? Okay, let's revert that back to vehicle assembly. I meant for those to be docking ports, not decouplers. I'm dumb. Okay, so we're going to change that real quick, and then we'll verify. Get out of here, decouplers. We wanted docking ports. So, coupling, we need Clampatron Docking Port Junior, and then a second Clampatron going this direction, like that. Now, this may be a little bit unstable, but that's okay. We can put this into hibernation for now, but we're not going to be too concerned about that for these testing purposes. Okay, let's try this again. With any luck, we won't be as dumb this time. Good thing we decided to test it. Okay, so we're going to undock and then redock. I wouldn't be hugely shocked if this didn't work. But I just want to test it. Other options. There are other options. Okay, so we're going to rendezvous, or actually I don't care about rendezvous. We're just going to set orbit here real quick, and we're going to run a test. Again, this will be reverted, and we are going to undock. Okay, so now we're going to RCS on, and we are going to head back in. Set as target. Cool. Docking forces? It looks like it did not count. Okay, I can't say I'm shocked about that. So we're going to revert that back to vehicle assembly, and we're going to change that plan. Good thing that the customer confirmed that this is not what they were looking for. Like I said, it's super cheesy, so I can't say I'm shocked about that. We're going to ditch this little spacecraft, and we're going to grab the experiment storage unit and put that back up over here. We can move the drogue chutes back up onto here, and that means that we can move the radial mount parachutes to here. That'll be nice. And we can also toss back in the Mark 16 parachute. Now, I'm going to ditch this photovoltaic panel. We don't actually need it because we're going to generate 8 total power here. We need 4 plus an additional power. This will be plenty. This will be more than enough power. So what else are we going to include in this? We are going to include a docking port. Junior. I don't think we can stack these, right? No, we can't stack them. So we're going to need a docking port of our own. We could put it on top of this parachute, in theory. So the docking port would go here, like that. Then the idea would be that we install this docking port in Kerbal construction mode on the other derelict. Then we can put a... Actually, can we just undock from here? Hang on. I don't think this is going to work. But if we were to put a miniature rocket nose here, can we just undock this? Let's put it on the pad and check that. I'm 95% sure that's not going to work. 95%. But we will get a dock done there. That'll be fine. No problem whatsoever. And we can still do multiple missions at once. So this will be good. This will, in fact, probably be the better solution than the one we tried first. But let's see what we've got here. I'm 95% sure this undock is not going to work. I lied. It works just fine. Cool. So, in that case, we can revert this back to the launch. I need to think this through. Do we want to change out anything else? I think there are a couple of other things that we want to update on this design. Any moment you want to respond, KSP. Thank you very much. Okay, yes, looking at the solar panels, there are. So we're going to head back to the VAB. Now that we know that this section will be absolutely fine, we can certainly upgrade our photovoltaic panels. So we're going to go to 1x6, and we're going to place those here. No. Here. Cool. So that should be reasonably fine. We're slightly taller, but I think that our our landing legs are going to be wide enough here that we're not going to have any major tipping issues. I think that'll be fine. So, what else are we going to potentially need here? Let's look at our contracts and make sure that we have absolutely everything. So we have the equipment that we need to dock, in theory, although we don't have any RCS on this, which will make that substantially easier. So let's make a quick modification here and toss in a teeny tiny RCS tank, not that big of an RCS tank. I want a top-mounted small RCS tank. This guy. Something like this, and then some teeny tiny RCS thrusters. All we need is a small amount of steering. Okay. There we go. Cool. Otherwise, I think this is solid. So transmit or recover scientific data from space around the moon. We'll have to remember to grab that, but that's not a problem. Scientific data from the surface of the moon will definitely be fine. Docking will be fine. Planting the flag will be fine. Collecting the mystery goo observations. We have the mystery goo monitor right here. And saving Traley Kerbal. Okay, this should do the trick. So let's go ahead and launch this then. This should be absolutely fine. No problem whatsoever here. We know that we had plenty of extra fuel, so the small amount of extra weight that we've added to this shouldn't be a problem. Our payload is slightly heavier than our previous payloads. That's for sure. But it should be okay. I just want to double check. Yeah, we've got Bill, we've got Jeb. Actually, let's revert that back again. Oh my, we should probably be running someone other than Jeb here. He's already landed on the moon. So instead of Jeb, we should be running, honestly, Valentina is kind of our backup pilot for right now. We do have other pilots, but for the time being, we'll run Valentina. Okay, Valentina Bill, that is correct. And let's get this thing into orbit. Then we can head off to the moon. Cool. So we should have no major problems with this liftoff. I want to double check our initial thrust to weight here. So let's throttle up, and we'll see here 1.47, slightly low off the pad, but it should be fine. I don't think we're going to see major issues there. And then we'll manually undock this. Cool. Let's double check our staging. We should be good to go. Those pop off. The nose cones, sure. This all fires. This fires. Yup, that looks good. We don't necessarily want to do this decoupler. Where is this decoupler? What are you? Oh, that decoupler. Okay. We don't necessarily want to have that happen at the same time as our drogue shoots. Let's see. We want our drogues, then our mains. That is correct. Okay. Looks good. Let's do this. And off we go. We will start our gravity turn here a little bit. And we'll just lock to prograde. If I feel like we're getting not enough vertical speed, we will just hold position. But for the time being, this is looking reasonable. Cool. We definitely want to be getting more vertical speed at the moment, but it should be semi-fine. But we started our turn fairly early here. And we did that because last time we had way too much vertical speed. So let's see how this is going. We're still increasing time to apoapsis, and that's the primary metric here. As long as that is going up, we're fine. We've got about 30 seconds left of burn time in our side tanks here. We shouldn't lose any of our tail fins with this detachment, in theory. And yeah, we're seeing our time to apoapsis is still heavily increasing. So that's great. And we are pushing up in altitude. We are seeing some drag happening here, but that's, I guess, fine. 4, 3, 2, 1, and detach. Cool. We don't lose our fins. Time to apoapsis is holding. Increasing. Beautiful. Well, that looks absolutely perfect then. We've got a good amount of burn time in this tank, of course. And we are primarily getting horizontal speed right now. We can see our vertical speed is actually decreasing, which is okay. As long as our time to apoapsis is increasing. That is our main goal here. Cool. And we can see our orbital velocity is increasing nicely as well. Up to about 1,700 meters per second. Apoapsis is out of the atmosphere as of, well, here in a moment. Now. Cool. So that's looking good. We'll target about 100 kilometers. And it should be absolutely fine. That's 90 kilometers. And that's 100. Cool. So we will go ahead and add a maneuver here and circularize. Something along the lines of this will do. We'll start steering on over. Eventually. It is kind of slow, no doubt about that. But we're going to be out of the atmosphere in just a moment here. I'm going to go ahead and undock this nose cone. And also these nose cones. Yeah, there's going to be some slight explosions. It's fine. It's fine. They're okay. Beautiful. So without that wait, we will proceed. And we will start our burn here in about 2 minutes. Okay, holding position. And we'll be entering orbit shortly. So we're going to be burning off most of this stage, for sure, in our... or actually, we're going to burn all of this stage in our lunar transfer burn, I think. Yeah, doing some mental math here, that's definitely going to happen. So we're just going to warp on over towards this burn. It's a pure prograde burn, so we don't really care about the positioning too much. We'll just lock prograde once we get a little closer here. Cool. 3, 2, 1, and burn. And off we go. We should extend our solar panels. Not that we're going to get any charge from that right now. But we'll get that done. Cool. And almost done with this burn. Watching our periapsis. Close enough. Cool. And there we are in orbit. It is about time to put a cut in here, though, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And next episode, we are going to commence our multi-part mission. We're going to rendezvous with Traley's Heap. We're going to set up a docking system. Hopefully that counts. And if it doesn't, we'll have to do something different. But hopefully that does count. And we will, at that point, land on the moon and complete our other contracts and head on back. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including, let me pull up my notepad, Fantastic, Casserole, ALS Gamer, Ken2In, James, Shadowwolf, Spartan News, Nick Smarty, Video Games Are Not Real, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, Unisil, Kadra, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.